What's up, guys? Welcome to Faith and History. And today, as you can see in my hat, we're going to do a history video. Today, we're just going to talk about, the weapons that would have been used during the American Civil War, how they evolved, and how they moved forward. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, so we're coming right off the bat of the Mexican-American War. Now, most rifles that would have been used during that time, moving right off the bat from the Mexican-American War, moving into the Civil War, would have been your typical flintlock rifles. Either it would be the hunting rifle, the Kentucky rifle, your Brown Bess, or the American flintlock rifle. So now this is for the South that we're talking about. These rifles were being used during the South because, like I said, this is like 1840s. So this is right off the bat before the South had really any type of modern weaponry. So at these times, they would use, even in the early 1860s, right at the beginning of the war, they would still use these flintlock rifles. Mostly around volunteers, they would use these. Now, around 1853, so many dates, sorry. 1853 is when the South first got their cap and ball rifles. And this would be the 1853 Enfield rifled musket. Now, these were imported by England, and these were the primary weapon of the South, of the Confederacy. Now, at that time, the British Empire wanted to ally themselves with the Confederacy. It did not happen due to some slave issues going over in England, and it wouldn't look that good. So they said, "Well, no, we'll back you up. We'll still back you up. We'll give you rifles." So in 1853, the South had their cap and ball revolver. Now, there were still some troops who had gotten accustomed to coming up in the American Revolution and the Mexican War, who they were really good shots with their black powder flintlock rifles. So they would still use it, mostly around volunteers, like I said. So they would still use it, and it wouldn't be a problem. Volunteers, they would use these rifles. So we have the flintlock rifle, the Brown Bess, that would have been used during that time by the South. Now, I'm starting with the South first so we can see how everything would have evolved. Now, when we go to the North, however, they had a little more resources, a little more money, more equipment, more factories to make new weaponry. Now, the standard rifle that would have been used for a federal soldier, a Union soldier, would be the 1861 Springfield rifle, or rifled musket, because it had grooves in the barrel and make the ball spin, and thus improving accuracy. So the standard rifle for the Union soldier would be the 1861 Springfield rifle. At this time, the South was using the 1853 Springfield and thus earlier versions of rifles. So, at this time, the North had more money to make more of these arms, so they were doing pretty good. Now, this didn't always apply. Now, there were some volunteers, including some soldiers, who did not use the Army-issued 1861 Springfield. They, however, made their own modifications to their rifles. They would use the Kentucky rifle. They would take off the mechanism of the previous flintlock rifle, and then somehow they would put in the mechanism of the cap and percussion cap and ball mechanism into that Kentucky rifle, thus improving accuracy at tremendous rates. Now, you don't see this in the history books, but this actually happened, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure it did. Now, myself, I used to have an 1861 Springfield. I loved it, but it was too short. So I'm going to be a little diverse, a little different. The rifle that I'm getting now is actually that what I just mentioned. The mechanism of the Kentucky rifle mixed in with the mechanism of the Springfield, thus giving this ancient, modern-looking rifle. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool in my opinion. So I'll be, showing those off soon, eventually. But anyway, yes, that is a great rifle. However, it does have its defects because it's it's kind of slow. It's a little bit ancient, but hey, if you can really tweak it and make it with your own modifications to it, hey, it should work fine. Now we're gonna move on to. Did we cover all the firearms? Okay, now we're moving from firearms to revolvers or handguns. Now the first handgun was the 1861 Springfield pistol. I used to have one of these. I don't have it anymore because it got old. I gave it away. But anyway, this first, it was a single action, but it was a handheld weapon, kind of like the British or flintlock pistols. This is when they first came out with the cap and ball mechanism. So it's really similar to the Springfield, the Enfield, just a handheld version of it. Exact same thing. So these were normally used by cavalrymen or artillerymen. Even a couple, surprisingly, even a couple of infantry soldiers would, stash these in their belts for, if you need to fire off a round in close combat. So, these were very typical common weapons to use. And then after that, the South came out with the 1850, I believe it was 1850 or 1851. I think it was 1850 or 1851, somewhere along those lines. It's just so many dates in history, guys. I just, get confused. The 1850 or 51 Lamat. Now, this was probably the South's first repeating rifle. And that had, it was a revolver with a buckshot or a shotgun in one. So you had a mixture of that. So it was a revolver and a shotgun mixed in one. So you could pick which one you wanted to fire off first, or you could fire them off together, either way, But that was a really deadly weapon. It was mostly used by the famous General Jeb Stuart's cavalrymen for the Confederacy. So that was his weapon of choice. I think about 100, if I'm not mistaken, about 100 Lamats were made because, after that, they came out with the Griswold and Gunnison rifle, which that was the South's first prosperous, really well-made repeating rifle for the Confederacy, the Griswold and Gunnison. I've never owned one, but I've seen them. The Griswold and Gunnison rifle was the weapon of choice for most generals in the Civil War and commanders and officers. This is a really great rifle. It was very close to its cousin, the 1861 Springfield. The 1861 Colt. Sorry, guys. Dates and stuff. I'm sorry. The 1860 Colt Army, which was used by the Union troops. Very similar rifles. Very, very, very similar. Griswold and Gunnison, I think they came over from Italy, made a factory in Tennessee, then it got burned down by federal troops, and, a whole bunch of crap happened. But anyway, so the 1861 and the Griswold and Gunnison are very familiar. You also have the 1851 Colt revolver, which was used by, surprisingly, both sides. So the 1851 Colt revolver was used by naval officers on both sides. And, it was a great rifle. It had, octagon cylinder on it. Can't remember the name of it. Octagon, I believe. Cylinder on it. So it would have been really nice. It was an 8-shot revolver like the 1860 Colt Army and the Griswold and Gunnison. Very, very nice rifles. Very nice rifles indeed. So those were the pistols that were used as time progressed in the Civil War. A little bit difficult to reload, took procushen caps and all that stuff. So it was, a big hassle to get these guns reloaded. So I think that's, as times progressed, repeating rifles started coming in, such as the Henry rifle, the Spencer rifle, the carbine, Surprisingly, yes, they had carbines in the Civil War too. Not only in World War II, I'm talking about the Civil War carbine. You know, the Colt rifle. Yes, they had Colts in the Civil War too. Colt rifles. So that is like a short evolution of how, you know, rifles would have evolved in the Civil War, guys. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm just starting out, so cut me some slack. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Guys, I apologize for, you know, slipping up on my words. It's just been a while since I've tackled this subject of the guns, because, you know, I haven't had any in a while. So guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you for watching Faith and History. Thank you guys, and God bless.